Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Hopefully a few more join in on this, but today's tech talk, we're going to pretty much go over some back to the basics. And I think some of these settings we're going to go through might be something that we overlook now and then, but it can be useful in our day-to-day surveying. So what I'm going to cover reviewing of job settings and creating templates in Trimble Access, the use of geoid models and where to get those geoid models, feature code libraries pertaining to measuring points or measuring codes, and then go through some of the map view features that are available in Trimble Access that weren't always available back in the day with Survey Controller. Most of these settings are actually things you can use without the access to Trimble Business Center. We know everybody doesn't have it, so if you don't have it, we can still do a lot of these things directly through our controller and through websites. If you look at the bottom, I've got a website link, and what that is it's a direct link to a Trimble DocuShare for access to geoid models. And I'll go over that briefly once we get started into the settings. But it has a pretty large list of different geoid models that you can pull down directly yourself. Once again, if you don't have Trimble Business Center and the ability to create geoid models or subgrids, this is a nice place to access different geoid models. And at the bottom is my email address, so we are recording this. All these videos that we do will be posted to our website, but if you have a direct question you want to ask me after the fact, go ahead and shoot me an email, or feel free to call the office. Okay. Starting off, I've got an emulator screen going, and this is actually a tablet version of the emulator, so there will be some things in the map view screen that I'm just going to briefly show you that we can do with the tablets. Those of you that have a tablet, the TSC3s and TSC2s may not have the same functionality, but I figured this screen view would be easier for everybody to see. So I'm going to start off by going through some of the settings. So if we go into our settings menu from the home screen of Trimble Access, we have different options inside here. What I'm going to cover today is the templates and some of the feature libraries. So starting off with our templates, what a template is a job setting that can be used without having to go through and create it every time you create a new job. So these can be default settings that you have inside there. You can make as many as you want. I've just got a couple created, both for robotic use and working off either the Iowa RTN or Trimble VRS Now network. So I'm going to start off with a robot. So it's a very familiar screen. Those of you who create jobs on a day-to-day basis, you name your template, and then we can come into our coordinate system. So obviously when we're working robotically, we want to select a scale factor only. We just set it to a scale of 1. Inside our units menu, we can come through here, and this is where we can define whether we're working in feet or meters. You can create multiple templates. If you are doing projects that require you to be on metric, create a robotic metric template. Set the temperature and the pressure and your areas and volumes. So these are some of the things I'm going to cover inside the map view. But under your area menu, if you want to see it in acreage, you could do that as well. Miles, meters, however you want to set that in there. And we page down to page 2. Some of the basic things, your distance displays. So if you want to see 3 decimal places, typically that's what we like to see out there. You can set those on all these settings here. Our stationing display, obviously we want it in feet if our template's in feet. And then your local time formats. If we're using linked files, you can link CSV or text files to this particular job. A linked file would be a CSV file that may have coordinates in it for control points. We can also link job files to it. It allows you to use those coordinate values inside the job, but they won't be directly imported in. So once you actually export your data out, any of the link files that were attached to it will not be exported with it. Our active map, if we had background maps we wanted to use in the map view, we could make them either active or background by importing a DXF file. Feature library, so if you're going to use a feature code library, you would activate it here. I have created just this quick one called road that we're going to cover in the feature attribute library, and that's what I'm going to use for today's examples. Our COGO settings are going to be set to ground, so if we're doing any inversing or anything like that, obviously we want our distances on the ground. We page down to page 2, and these are some settings that people may not even be looking at or noticing that are available in there. First off, we have additional settings. This is kind of a neat tool. If we go into additional settings, we have the option here to use additional descriptors. So what does that mean? Basically, if we're locating something that we want to actually have a feature code, but also kind of have an attribute attached to it as well, but we don't have an actual feature code and attribute library created, this gives us the opportunity to put something in, like if we were locating a tree, we can have a descriptor of the type of tree and maybe the trunk size in there. So that's something you can easily check on and off by adding the use descriptions. And it'll just be additional fields that'll populate your measure points option. Also, we have this other option in here called add to CSV file. By checking this, what it allows us to do is if we have a project that we're working on that is more than one day and we're continually going out there and collecting data, and then at the end of the day we're exporting it out to a CSV or text file, the next day we go out there, if we enable this, we can automatically send the data we collect today to that existing CSV file that we created, so you won't have to re-export it out again. Good and bad, it's good that it's an extra step you don't have to do in the field or at the end of the day in the office. However, if you're importing this data in AutoCAD or something like that through the CSV file, you're going to have those multiple points coming in. So, just think about what you're doing with that file before you enable it. Next thing we have in here is our media file. So those of you that are running the TSC3 or the tablets, obviously we have the camera built into it, so we have this media file option. If we click on this, this is pretty much where we're telling those pictures to go. So we have the option in the link file for that photo to be linked to either the job, a previous point that we're measuring the field, next point, or a specific point name, or nothing at all inside there. So typically what I'll leave mine is the previous point. I'll locate something in the field, then I'll activate the photo function on the controller, take the picture, and then it'll be linked to that previous point that I located. Check in the box here, show with new media file, so it stores those in a new media folder. One of the other cool tips that we can do inside here is if you check this box to geotag the image. So what it'll do is it'll take the latitude, longitude of that photo based off of the internal GPS on the TSC3 and actually georeference that, or geotag that image. I'm going to move over to a GPS template, and I'm going to go to the VRS one that I've created. So once again, these will pop up, these options will pop up when we go to create a job or open a job. It'll tell you what template you can select from. Starting off with the coordinate system, so I'm going to go in and just walk through some of these things inside here. I'm going to select from the library. So what I'm selecting in here is my U.S. State Plane 1983 system and my zone, Illinois East, Illinois West. I can create multiple templates, so if I'm working all over the state of Illinois, I can create Illinois East, West, vice versa. Iowa, you can go north or south zone. Your datum, 1983 CONUS. Jumping down to the geoid model. So working off network GPS, we always want to activate our geoid model. If you don't have a geoid model selected, working with network GPS, your elevations will come in as ellipsoidal instead of orthometric ground elevations. So we always want to use a geoid model. For the VRS, currently we have to select geoid 09. It has not been adjusted yet, so until Trimble notifies us that the adjustment's been made, we're going to stick with geoid 09. Speaking of geoids, that link that I showed in the first screen will take you to this page. It's a Trimble DocuShare, like I said, and there's all these different options in here. So once again, if you don't have Trimble Business Center, you can just go to this website. You can pull in geoid 09, geoid 12A. Now these are the entire continental U.S. geoid models. They're fairly large files, so if you're running a TSC2, they are going to take quite a bit of space. TSC3 and the tablets seem to handle them okay. If for some reason you do want a subgrid of a geoid model and you do not have access to Trimble Business Center, feel free to contact any of our sales guys over at Precision Midwest or myself and let us know if you want a subgrid just to save a little space on your controller, and we can definitely do that for you. So back to the geoid model, I'm going to stick with 09. Our coordinates, leaving this at grid right now, and it's going to ask us for a project height. So what the project height would be the ellipsoidal height. It would not be the orthometric ground height. So if you knew your project was around 700 elevation, we typically want to go about 100 feet below orthometric. That's where the ellipsoid is, at least over in Illinois and Iowa. Throughout the world, it's in different parts, so you may have to look into that to see what the difference is. One small thing to think about when you're creating templates for GPS, if you're traveling around quite a bit and you've created one for VRS like I have here, I know there's a little bit of relief in Illinois where we could be working in 600 elevation all the way up to 900 elevation. Your project height is going to vary through those, so be aware of that. You may want to go in and edit those per job. But if you're working on a specific site, you'll be there for a while, you can continue using the same template. If we were to select ground calculated scale factor, you actually want to know what the ground scale factor is of your project. You would need to be connected to a GPS receiver and on the project at the time. What will happen is when you select that, there'll be a box option down here that says here. You would tap that once you're connected to the GPS, and it would actually pull in a latitude, longitude, and a ground scale factor. Be very careful in creating a template that you're going to select ground calculated scale factor, because what it's going to do is it's going to pull in the scale factor for that particular project. You go drive somewhere else to another project, this ground scale factor would be applied to that other project. So I don't recommend creating a template for ground calculated scale factor. Just go through and create a new one every time if you're continuously going to new sites. Same thing with the VRS template. If we page down, we can activate the additional settings for descriptions and enabling CSV as well. And same thing with media file as well. These other fields you can fill in if you want, referencing the job file, job descriptions, the username, and any kind of specific notes you want to put in there. So I'm going to jump over now to the feature libraries. So once again, we don't need Trimble Business Center. It will help you if you want to really dig in and create feature and attribute libraries. But if we just want to do a basic feature library where our guys in the field can utilize it and actually see some line work, we can go in here and create these different feature libraries. I've got a couple created in here. I'm just going to go in. You would typically select new to create a new one. I'm going to open up one that I call road. And I just typed in a couple of these different feature codes and descriptions. I've created a couple different ways here, and it's all depending on how you measure your data in the field. If you're just going in to measure points, you may want to create these with these different names like I did here. I've got back at curb 1 and back at curb 2. And the reason I do that, because I've actually gone in and set these up for line work. So if I kept the same code, the lines are just going to go all over on the map view screen. So I can actually run down two different sides of the street and collecting back of curb shots, and the lines will connect to the proper points. If I'm selecting back of curb through measure code screen, I'm going to use something like this, and I'll go through that here in a moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in here and edit one of these. And all you're going to do when you select new is you're going to type in the feature code and the actual description you want, and accept that. If I go in to an actual feature with a line code, I've got back of curb 1 with a description of that. Then I have an option in here for a line and a line style. So I can select either solid lines or dash lines, and I can have different colors inside there as well. What these are all set up for, once again, is for the field users to see some line work so they can see what they've covered and just make sure the job looks right as they're collecting data. Once again, we can have line codes or we can have point codes if we're doing underground and stuff like that. So I'm going to back out of this, and I'm actually going to jump into general survey here. Open up one of my projects. I just called this Main Street cross-section. It's just a standard road cross-section that I'm going to do in here. I'm going to use a manual survey style really quick so we can actually do some data in here. So typically, if I was just going to go in and if I was going to measure topo, I would probably want to use the feature code curb 1. I can decipher between which side of the street I'm on and then just measure that point. But what I want to show you here is the measure codes option. So what I did was I just went in and measure codes and I added this group. Okay, I've got edge of pavements, I got center lines, I got power points, got some guardrail shots and a center line of ditch. You'll have these boxes that you can populate with whatever code you want. And once again, if you're just doing a simple cross-section of a road, we'll come in here and I might add in one of the codes that I created. I'm just going to use the back of curb 1 at this point. So now that this field is filled in here. I'm going to measure my point just by tapping on these boxes. So if I go in here and tap that, it's going to automatically populate my code field, and I'm going to give it a point name, and then I'm going to measure it. So let's say I'm on one side of the street and I want to jump to the other side of the street. If I call it back of curb again, it's going to draw a line from that one point to the next point. So what I want to do here is I've got the option for plus at the bottom of the screen. So if I hit plus on this, it'll add a 1 to it. So the line work will actually stay, back curb 1s will all stay connected to back curb 1s. Vice versa, if I hit the minus on this, it'll jump me back to the other side of the street. And the line work for the back of curbs will all be connected. So you can add multiple groups here as well. So if I just hit add group, I can give it a group name. What I've done was I've created 2 groups here. I've got another one called underground. So this helps you if you want to use all these different codes. It's easy to switch back and forth. So I'm on the roadway, I'm shooting pavement and curb shots, centerline shots. I might come across a manhole that I want to locate. Instead of adding that manhole to this field, I can quickly switch over to my underground and shoot a sanitary manhole. Once again, I've added this description 1 and description 2 in my template. So it's a sanitary manhole, and I might want to put, I don't know, maybe an invert on here. If I wanted to pop the rim at the time that I was locating it, I could put an invert, or I could put condition of what condition the rim was in. If it was locked down, you know, anything like that can be populated in these 2 fields. So I've taken several shots just going out using that standard road feature code library, and I'm going to hop over to my map view screen here. As you can see, all my back curb 1s have been connected, and it didn't matter which way I walked this job. I can walk it back and forth like this, jumping from side to street to side of street, or, you know, I can walk it down one side, up the center line, down the other side. So I created my center lines as dash lines, and I created my curb line as solid lines. It's, once again, it's an easy way for the guys in the field just to check and see if they've done, if they've covered everything. If there was something odd going on, they could look at that and see if they missed something there. We can actually go through the layers of this. So, actually, I want to filter. You can either filter points on and off through that screen. You have an options menu where we can actually display by point number or by code. So your codes are turned on there. You can play around with that and see what works the best for you. I like using the map screen, especially with the tablets, because it covers a lot of area on the screen, and it's a quick way to do some COGO functions as well. So inside here, let's say I just did this little quick road cross section, and I actually wanted to get an area of what I covered here. Instead of going through my COGO menu and picking points in an area, I can quickly just click on these points that I located here, the outside points. And if I press and hold on the screen with my stylus, I can go to area calculations, and it'll actually quickly calculate the area of those points that I shot. You can actually name that particular area, and it'll store it in the database as well, so you can do multiple areas. Also, if we wanted to, we can highlight all the points. And then same thing, press and hold on the screen, and we can actually create a surface. A nice little surface that's created just by using the map screen. Kind of a cool feature as well if you're doing like a stockpile and we wanted to know a quick quantity of that stockpile. You may use the outside portion of the stockpile for one of your surfaces, and then you can actually use the other points inside there as well. So we can do a quick reference of quantity from surface to surface inside here. Some of the features inside the tablet, which once again the TSC3 and 2s don't have. So those of you using the tablets, you can actually kind of spin your job site around inside the tablet itself and actually look at the surface that you've created. Kind of a neat tool to look at profile. So you can actually see if you had any spikes in there for some reason. If you had a bad shot, you'd see like a little bump in the line. So the crew in the field can go back and they can actually look at their data before they turn it into the office and make sure everything looks correct for them. Once again, these also can be done through the COGO menu, computing the volumes and area calculations inside there. So once again, going through, if we're going to create a new job, you now have these template options. So we can pick and choose from whichever one we want. And once again, even though we're picking one of the templates we've created, if we wanted to go back in and edit something, we could just by going in there. If I actually want to go in and change from my grid view to my ground, either keyed in scale factor or calculated scale factor, we can do that. If you know what the ground calculated scale factor is for your project, you can definitely put that in. I do know of people that will go select ground calculated scale or keyed in scale factor and put it in a scale of 1, kind of forcing it to be a perfect world. So you can always edit that at that point in time. It's not going to change that template, so it's always going to default back to grid after that, but it'll allow you guys to go in and quickly change that. Your units will all stay the same once again. So it's just a quick reference to go in there and switch back and forth between different templates. So once again, these are some of the basic things. Definitely feel free to email me if you want to know a little bit more. If you want to go through any of this a little bit more in detail, we have no problem doing that. Once again, this is being recorded. You guys can check out the recording later if people aren't around to sit in on this. And if you need any help with these geoid models, you know, creating subgrids or anything like that, definitely give me a call or shoot me an email, and we'll be glad to help you with that. I want to thank everybody for sitting in on this today. Any questions? Feel free to call. Thank you for your time.